The day my family disowned me, it was raining. I recall that detail vividly, the way raindrops slid down the windows of the 27th floor conference room at Whitmore and Company. Inside, my father's face flushed with anger. "Incompetent," he yelled, slamming a pile of documents onto the glossy wooden table. "Do you even realize how much your blunder could have cost the company?" I stood there, 22 years old, only a few months out of business school, fighting back tears. "Dad, I can fix it. The contract hasn't been signed yet." "Fix it?" My brother Nathan's sharp, mocking laughter interrupted. "You nearly sold our transportation division for half its worth. What exactly do you think you can salvage?" My error was that I'd relied on an old valuation sheet while drafting the sale of Whitmore Transportation, a minor branch of the company. I'd neglected to update the numbers after we overhauled our delivery system. The contract was still a draft. No harm had been done, but from my family's reaction, you'd think I'd torched the headquarters. "I gave you this chance," my father went on, his voice dropping to a tone that somehow stung worse. "And this is how you repay that trust, with failure." I tried to explain that I'd been pulling nearly 80-hour weeks, managing this deal alongside a last-minute tech acquisition they dumped on me, but in the Whitmore family, excuses didn't count, only outcomes did. My mother, Margot, appeared at the doorway, clad in a chic tweed dress, looking more like a diplomat than the comforting spouse she claimed to be. "The board is waiting," she said. My father adjusted his tie. "We'll deal with this later." But we never did. That night I was called to the study, a room where 3 generations of Whitmore men had shaped the decisions that forged our legacy. Leather-bound books and old oil paintings adorned the walls, silently weighing me as my father spoke. "You're no longer with this company," he said flatly. "The board has lost faith in your judgment. Effective immediately, your role at Whitmore and Company is over." It hit like a blow to the chest. "Dad, it was one mistake." "One mistake we can't afford," he replied, still avoiding my gaze. "You'll get 6 months severance. After that, you're on your own." "You're firing me? I'm your daughter." "Which is precisely why this cuts deeper," he said, finally meeting my eyes. "You're a Whitmore. We expected better and you fell short." My mother's voice drifted in from behind. I hadn't heard her enter. "We've secured you a job at your uncle's firm in Denver. Far enough that this won't taint the family." I turned to her, stunned. "You want me to leave New York?" "Want has nothing to do with it," she said, her perfectly painted lips barely twitching. "The decision's made. Your flight's tomorrow morning." "And if I say no?" I asked, barely breathing. My father's tone turned cold as steel. "Then you're entirely on your own. No severance, no connections, no family." I stared at them, these two who'd urged me to chase a business career, to embody the Whitmore name, now tossing me aside over a single slip. "Fine choice," I muttered. The only one who stood by me that night was my grandfather, Everett Whitmore, the man who'd transformed our humble family delivery business into a national logistics powerhouse. He stormed into the study as I was about to leave, his aged face red with fury. "Graham, you blasted idiot," he said, each word a strike. "You've no clue what you're discarding." "Dad, the board." "The board?" He cut my father off with a harsh laugh. "You mean those gutless lackeys you've surrounded yourself with, who've forgotten what built this company?" I'd never seen Grandpa so enraged. When he faced me, his look softened. "Sabrina, stay with me. We'll sort this out together." But I shook my head, the shame was too raw, the wound too fresh. "No, Grandpa. They've made their call." I left that night, bypassing the Denver plan my mother had so neatly arranged. 6 months severance was enough to start anew, far from the Whitmore shadow. What I didn't know then was that Grandpa had already set something in motion, something that wouldn't surface for a decade. And when it did, it would rattle the Whitmore family to its foundation. That night I checked into a small boutique hotel in Jersey City, just across from Manhattan's skyline. I used my personal credit card, soon to be my only active one once my corporate accounts were shut off. Sitting on a floral bedspread, I opened my laptop and stared at the draft contract that had supposedly ruined me. But something felt off. I'd handled dozens of contracts at Whitmore and Company. I knew my style, my formatting, my phrasing. This one was different. The spacing, the font, even the wording, it wasn't mine. My hand shook as I pulled up the original file from my secure external drive. The changes were subtle but clear. Someone had tampered with my work before it reached the board. Someone had set me up to fail. I thought of Nathan's smug grin, how quick he'd been to judge, how he'd painted himself as the sole capable heir. Grandpa Everett's words rang in my head. You've no clue what you're throwing away. But maybe I did. Maybe I knew exactly what had happened and why. I shut the laptop and walked to the window, watching the city lights shimmer through the rainy haze. A decade ago, my great-grandfather had handed Whitmore and Company to Everett, bypassing his elder brother. A move that stunned the business world. History, it seemed, loved to loop in our family. My phone buzzed, a text from Grandpa. Nothing's as it seems, Sabrina. Watch. Wait. Learn. I took a deep breath and made a choice that would shape the next 10 years. I wouldn't go to Denver. I wouldn't fade away. I'd watch, I'd wait, and above all, I'd uncover the truth of this betrayal's depth. What they didn't know, not even Grandpa yet, was that the contract I'd truly written, the one altered behind my back, held a hidden clause. Small but vital, it wouldn't matter for years. But when it did, it would hand me control of Whitmore Transportation's most precious assets, right when the family needed them most. I smiled at my reflection in the glass. They thought they were schooling me in failure. They were about to learn a far different lesson about underestimating the wrong person. Grandpa's next text came as I drifted to sleep. Remember, my dear, in business and chess, the queen's the mightiest piece, even if fools take her for a pawn. I didn't grasp it fully then, but I would. Oh, I would. 10 years is a long wait for payback, but Grandpa always said patience outvalued gold in business, and he was right. That first year I laid low, starting a small consulting firm in Boston. Far enough to dodge my family's radar, close enough to track Whitmore and Company. Grandpa's messages kept coming, each a clue through our family's maze. Check the Yokohama shipment logs, he'd text, or study the Claremont merger's fine print. Every hint built a larger picture. My mistake wasn't a fluke. It was a setup to prove me unfit to the board. But Nathan didn't know I'd hidden my own trap in the fine print. Clause 23.4, subparagraph B. In the event of asset restructuring or transfer, the original drafter retains first right of access and operational authority over all affiliated port routes along the U.S. West Coast and East Asia. It meant nothing until Whitmore and Company restructured its transportation wing, which, per Grandpa, was now in motion. I didn't reclaim my life in a blaze of triumph. I built it layer by layer. My firm, North Crescent Strategies, thrived in Boston, focusing on logistics consulting and global port coordination. We were lean but shrewd, gaining a name for tackling issues bigger firms shunned. Meanwhile, Nathan basked as the chosen heir, gracing magazine covers, delivering speeches on Whitmore and Company's bright future, my parents glowing behind him like a perfect corporate tale. Only Everett saw through it. His latest buyout's a risk, he told me at a quiet Cambridge cafe meetup. He's betting the company's future for short-term praise. I nodded, stirring my tea. The Halifax deal's a mirage. He smirked faintly. He's leveraging every transport asset, thinking the ships are the prize, not the routing rights. I know, I said softly. He slid a file over. The AMP port licenses renew soon. Be ready. For an hour we dissected terms. He wasn't just briefing me, he was handing me the reins. Over 9 years I grew quietly. North Crescent became respected, yet I stayed out of sight. No interviews, no summits. My team was tight-lipped, loyal, well-paid. None knew I was a Whitmore. I'd once trusted a lover with my story, only for him to run to Nathan. Since then I boxed off everything: work, identity, heart. Each Christmas, a card arrived at my Boston flat. Margot's script, always some version of Nathan's thriving, the company's soaring. I never replied, just filed them under fuel. 3 years back, cracks widened at Whitmore and Company. Late vendor payments, Oakland shipping snags, stock wobbling. The board's asking questions, Everett said at our final meetup, especially about the transport overhaul. My voice stayed even. If they shift the routes, clause 23.4 kicks in. He nodded, pride quiet. The clause they overlooked, buried in the contract they used to oust you. 2 months later he was gone, a stroke. The obituary called him a logistics titan. I stood at the cathedral's back watching the charade. Nathan gave a tearful eulogy, claiming Everett mentored him. I nearly laughed, he'd only learned to steal credit. My parents saw me but kept their distance. Shame? No, likely fear. I left silently, heading to the attorney's office. The wills read next week, she said. Mandatory for shareholders and family, no proxies. I nodded. Classic Everett. Days blurred into prep. I pored over every coded note, memo and scribble he'd sent. North Crescent's books were solid, alliances firm, licenses cued like chess pieces. On reading day I dressed sharp. Charcoal suit, French cut, sleek bun, bold eyeliner. No one would see the 22-year-old who'd wept in the rain. As I drove to the law office, my phone pinged. Whitmore and Company shares down 1.8%. Coington deal stalled, liquidity rumors swirling. I parked, checked my reflection, the original contract with clause 23.4 in my bag, proof of Nathan's every reckless call since they crowned him, and 9 years of insight no one else held. I stepped into the elevator, Everett's last text in my mind, the game's won before the first move. The doors opened. The room hushed. My father dropped his coffee, Margot's face stiffened, Nathan paled. I smiled, strode in and said, "Morning, everyone. Shall we start?" The conference room at Granger, Harlow and Bell LLP 18th floor off Madison Square felt icy. My family arrived early, Nathan at the walnut table's head, parents flanking him like advisors, board members filling the rest, eyes averted. They waited, clueless. Mr. Alton Granger, Everett's attorney of 40 years, nodded evenly and set a thick folder down. Everett left strict instructions for this will's order and delivery. No changes allowed. Yes, yes, Nathan snapped, impatient. Can we speed this up? Some of us have a company to run. I nearly chuckled. That'd be funny in 5 minutes. Granger unsealed the envelope. This is Everett Whitmore's last will and testament. Early parts were standard. Vintage cameras to my uncle, diamond jewelry to Margot, who dabbed her eyes theatrically. My father nodded at a new endowment in Everett's name. Then came the core. Whitmore and Company. The company's ownership is complex, Granger said, adjusting his glasses. Nathan leaned in. What's complex? The plan was set. Your interim CO, Granger corrected coolly. That, like much else, was provisional until this reading. The room stilled. Nathan's color faded as Granger went on. To Nathan Whitmore, my grandson, I leave these words. Power without wisdom is an empty shell. You chased control without grasping what sustains this company, prized figures over roots, and worst, betrayed your sister to seize the top. Nathan leapt up. That's false. He was misled. Sit, Granger said sternly. We're not done. He pulled out a folder I knew well, the original maritime contract from 9 years ago. This contract, he said, raising it, was altered to discredit Sabrina Whitmore and justify her exit. Here's the true version with proof of who tampered. My father reddened. That's old news. Why drag it up? Because, Granger replied, Sabrina's firing stemmed from a doctored file Nathan edited unauthorized. Murmurs rose. One board member, Mr. Lang, texted furiously. There's more, Granger added. This original has a clause now critical. Sabrina, care to clarify? I stood deliberate, smoothing my blazer. Clause 23.4, subsection B. In a division restructure, the original drafter, me, holds first refusal on all Pacific Rim shipping routes and infrastructure. That's irrelevant, Nathan barked. We're not restructuring. Really? I held up my phone. This morning's brief. Whitmore and Company announces a $68 million Vancouver deal, key to the 2025 transport revamp. That needs my sign-off. I'm not giving it. Chaos erupted. Board members stood, phones rang, Margot's mascara ran with real tears. My father stared at Granger's latest report. That, Granger said, details Nathan's leadership. Every flop, hidden loss, rash move tracked by Everett for 4 years. I stayed still. The power had shifted, they felt it. Finally, Granger said, pulling a new envelope. Everett's controlling shares in Whitmore and Company go fully to Sabrina Whitmore. All Whitmore family trust voting rights are hers alone, effective now. Silence fell. Nathan sank back. No, this isn't legal. Dad, speak. But my father stayed mute, pale eyes on the report. They knew. This wasn't their room anymore. Everett spent his last years quietly monitoring every choice here, Granger said, scanning the table coldly. While you bought your own hype, he worked with the only one who got this company, Sabrina. I stepped up, placing a thick folder down. North Crescent Strategies, my firm, rebuilt ties you ditched, secured deals you never saw. My father shifted, voice shaky. So what now? We're yours. No, I met his gaze. I'm taking back what was mine before you chose lies over truth. Granger opened a red wax-sealed envelope. Everett left a final letter to read aloud. He began, "Power isn't a boardroom seat. It's knowing your business, your people, yourself. 9 years ago, you discarded the one who truly understood Whitmore and Company, picking flash over depth, greed over stability, betrayal over trust. Sabrina didn't just endure, she grew. While you watched Nathan play CEO, she mastered the industry from scratch, built success while you squandered your legacy. This is my last lesson. True leadership isn't who grabs power quickest. It's who wields it best. Sabrina, the company's yours. Make it what it should be. The rest of you learn, if you can. Everett Whitmore." Silence draped the room. Nathan spoke first, voice raw. "You planned this, you and Grandpa." I faced him. "No, you did, the moment you doctored that contract to ruin me. Grandpa and I just ensured you'd pay." I turned to the board. "A car waits downstairs for North Crescent's Boston HQ. My team will brief you on the restructure. Stay and prove your value, or don't." I tilted my head, smiling faintly. "I hear Nathan might need help soon." "You can't just take it all," my father gasped. "Actually, I have." I gathered my papers and headed out. "Shareholders' meetings in an hour. Pick your side by then." At the door I paused. "Oh, Nathan, clear your office today." The next weeks unfolded as they should when years of missteps meet daylight. Media buzzed. "Disgraced daughter reclaims Whitmore and Company. Stunning coup at Whitmore." My favorite headlines. After reviewing Grandpa's and my detailed plans, shareholders backed me overwhelmingly. Stock steadied, then climbed. Nathan sued, but the case died. The tampered contract went public. My father, after weeks of silence, testified against him. Nathan's name crumbled. Business schools cut ties. Industry groups dropped him, partners shunned him. Margot tried mending fences. Cheery texts, lunch offers, hints at family unity. I declined each one. Some bridges stay ash. One late afternoon I stood in the 35th floor office, once Grandpa's, now mine, watching the city glow in dusk. On my desk sat the framed contract that once broke me yet made me. My phone pinged, an unknown number. A photo. Grandpa, the day he caught Nathan altering my file, kept all those years. Below, a delayed message sent post-death. "The Queen's on her throne. Checkmate, my dear. Checkmate." A year on, Whitmore and Company soared under me. Profits up 120%, operations streamlined, partnerships global. But I'm proudest of the people. A culture where every voice counts, from dockhands to execs. I spoke at a leadership conference once, unthinkable. On stage, I wasn't the girl who cried in the rain. I ran an empire built on my terms, not shadows. I didn't need revenge, just time to prove the one they discarded was the one they should have kept. The best win isn't a comeback. It's making the world see they were wrong. Have you ever been like Sabrina? Cast off by family, left to rise alone? Yes, type 1. No, but you feel for her, type 0. Some, like her, grow up thinking effort and love earn visibility, but sometimes the harder you try, the more unseen you are. Sabrina didn't rage or curse. She stepped back, rebuilt with steady hands once shaken by rain. This isn't about blame, it's a quiet nudge. If you've been dismissed by those meant to stand by you, you're no less worthy. The strongest act can be to rise silently, live without spite, and let those who cast you out see in time what they lost.